Hey journalers, I'm Jenny. Let's look at 5 scientifically proven benefits of journaling. Easier decision making. This is something that I have experienced since I was 7 years old. When I have a problem, I go to my journal and I write it out. We're so accustomed to hearing other people's voices, and other people's opinions. What happens when we go to our journal is it's our voice. We get to really hear and see what we think about a decision that's before us. Reduce stress. Sometimes that's linked to decision making, but any stress, when we're feeling overwhelmed, sometimes things are spinning in our minds, maybe a sense of chaos is something that we're experiencing. Taking time to just write down what our priorities are, what direction we might want to go, and just even reflecting and venting. I'm feeling stressed. I always feel better after writing in my journal when I'm especially when it comes to stress. Working toward resolving challenges. So that can mean many things. They can be psychologically rooted. They can be maybe a problem at work. Maybe you need to have a difficult conversation with someone. And so writing about it in your journal is a way to sort of prep you to think about, like, how might this go? If the person says X, how might I respond? It just lets you have a little bit more confidence going into some sort of difficult conversation, which could be an example of a challenge. Coping with chronic illness. This is something that I have experienced for most of my life. And I always had the sense that journaling helped me heal, but I kind of thought that that wouldn't ever have been something that would be scientifically proven. Stay tuned. And then improving performance. So whether you have a challenge at work or something in your personal life, what is it that you want to get better at? Tracking it, writing about it, and reflecting on your performance is something that can be benefited with journaling. And then here's a bonus: feeling hopeful at the end of my journal writing, which for me happens to be 20 minutes each morning, but sometimes I can just do 5 minutes and I can still attain a sense of hope about whatever challenge is placed before me. So another benefit is that over the time, my journaling practice has helped me develop a sense of identity. So this quote from E.M. Forrester says, "How do I know what I think until I see what I say?" So writing what I think about things, even as simple as I saw a movie or I read a novel and here's what I think about it. And so once I see what I say, I have sort of a more firm understanding of who I am, what I think, what I value. And that's really grown over time. And so it's sort of evolved to this thought: how do I know who I am until I see what I think? So over time, I have sort of a record of who I've been, who I am, and who I'm becoming. So, like I said, this was my own experience. I was asked by some of my students at the university where I teach to come and speak to their organizations or to their residence halls. And I thought, oh, that's so great. I'd love to, of course, spread the gospel of journaling, but I didn't know that my experience would be enough. I wanted to do some research. What's out there? What are other people finding? I can't be the only one, right? So the way that this stemmed is that often students come to my office hours with, perhaps, let's just say, a decision they need to make. They're about to graduate. They have the choice, maybe a job in this city, grad school in this city, or do I stay with my boyfriend or do we break up because I'm moving away? Big things that they come to me and they ask for advice. And what I share with them is that I cannot give you advice. I don't know that anyone can actually give anyone advice, or that they should. But what I can do is offer you guidance. And so I offer them that through journaling. And I give them 2 pieces of paper. And at the top of one, I say, when I think about decision A, I feel. And then when I think about decision B, I feel. And I give them 10 minutes to write about each one. And often at the end of that 20-minute writing session, they turn to me and they say, I didn't know that I knew what I wanted to do. And it's just that opportunity for their own voice to rise up on the page. And so that's sort of the backstory as to how I got in, started to speak about journaling. And so when I did some of my research, I was pleased to come across Dr. Pamela Peeke, who also has found that decision making is something that journaling can definitely help, and as a byproduct, reduce stress. So she talks about the thoughts and the decisions that can be so clear when they're written on the page, and really help serve as a guide for those of us who might feel a little uncertain. Scripted therapy is a field of psychology that has been really positioned as an effective way to combat stress. It's also used to treat eating disorders, depression, addiction, and other challenges with psychological roots. So the idea is that writing down your feelings helps you look at them more objectively. And I have another researcher has told me that by writing down something on the page, it actually moves it from the rumination part of our brain to the problem solving part of our brain. And so we see what's happening in our lives from a new perspective, and we can approach it in a different manner. And so this is a treatment that is typically a companion treatment to, other modalities that are going on, to, especially when it comes to psychological challenges that are being treated. It's not the only thing. Likewise, it's also used to help soldiers returning from overseas handle post-traumatic stress. And so particularly at Fort Bragg, there is a journaling instructor there in the Army who says that keeping thoughts too close to the vest can lead to an explosive outburst, which can be regrettable at best and dangerous at worst. So journaling, he has guided journaling prompts with his soldiers, and it helps them sort of process what's happened and be one way to treat post-traumatic stress. So this is the one that really blew me away. Like I said, I've suffered from chronic illness, autoimmune issues, and what I learned when I dove into the research was that James Pennebaker, a researcher at University of Texas, Austin, took blood samples and did journaling workshops and determined that people who journaled, this is about trauma for 4 days in a row, and they ended up having stronger immune systems 6 weeks and even 6 months later. So this was something that was just earth-shattering to me, because I really felt that my immune system was stronger after I journaled. But I thought, how can that be? And so I was pretty excited to find out that this is something that has been scientifically proven. This is a University of Chicago study that looked at test performance. And so students were asked to write for 10 minutes before an exam, and these were high school students, and they were in math and science. And so they determined that this, you can see here on the chart, that the students who wrote 10 minutes before the exam ended up having a higher performance than those who didn't. So this, if you suffer from test anxiety, this might be something to try. What can you lose, right? So just taking 10 minutes to write your thoughts. What are you feeling? What's spinning around your head? Get it down on the page before you take that test. And then the sense of hope, certainly when we think of Anne Frank, we think of her diary, we think of her journal. That is what she turned to during, the most horrific experience that, many of us can imagine. Terrible time in history. And we have this quote here from her: "I somehow feel that everything will change for the better, that this cruelty shall end, that peace and tranquility will return once more." So she was, in the depths of despair, and yet experienced hope, and that was aided by her journal. We're going to move into a writing prompt. And so when you receive a writing prompt, I encourage you to not lift up your pen. It's just to keep going. Even if you're writing, hey, I don't know what I'm supposed to be writing, set your timer, and that could be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. I would say 10 minutes would be ideal to start out, but if you've only got 5 minutes, let's go with that. And so grammar and spelling don't matter. Nobody's going to read this. You can, tear it up afterwards, throw it away. This is just for you, and it's the writing process in which we get the benefit. So keep in mind that writing down our thoughts and feelings, that's not a replacement for professional therapy. So if you think you might be depressed, or if you're having some overwhelming feelings that seem to be interfering with your daily functioning, I encourage you to reach out to a licensed professional. Energy. Who doesn't want more energy, right? Our lives are thriving when we have a lot of energy and we have direction. When we just feel exhausted and a real lack of motivation, that can often be a reflection that we have very poor energy. So let's dive into that. I'd like you to make 2 columns on your page, maybe one the left page of the journal and the right page of the journal. The left side, your energy drainers. Maybe you put a little minus sign at the top of that page. And on the right side, energy boosters, maybe you put a plus sign. So some of the energy drainers for me are lack of sleep, sugar. It might be nice to get that initial rush, but then I crash and I just have no motivation, no energy afterwards. Being around certain negative people can just zap my energy. I just get exhausted, or maybe it's people who talk too much. Energy boosters for me include connecting with friends, nature walks, and traveling. When you think of the energy drainers and boosters that come to mind, think also of what sort of odd, like things that maybe not everyone has. So for me, when I go to a big box store with all of that sensory input, I almost need a nap afterwards. It's a drainer for me. I tend to prefer to shop at very small stores. It's just sort of an odd thing about me. That would go in my energy drainer list. So I know if I need to go to a big box store, I might not schedule like 3 things right after that. I might just give myself some downtime. So create your own list and then choose 1 or maybe 2 of them to do a free write. And here's what we're after. How can you spend more time with energy givers and less time with energy drainers? So it's about your time. Maybe there's someone in your life who is a drainer who talks all the time. Can you spend less time with that person? And how might you do that? So the idea is just to wrestle with this on the page and see, you might come up with some ideas that you hadn't realized that you already knew. If you're looking for more journal prompts, I encourage you to discover journalingwithjenny.com, where I post journal prompts every Sunday. Thank you so much. Take care.